guys enjoy. Can we do Gladiator 40k today? If you've posted it for me.
Boka using their wings to try and show dominance over chat today.
Yeah! Bow down! Bow down! Bow down, bow down. Bow down. Rah.
I bow to no one.
About to know one. What about me?
Hail Boka the Dragon.
Alright, we're gonna watch this 40k thing. Here we go. 2 hours! Hello? It's divided into... Where do you... Oh, okay, so these little breaks are the chapters. Alright, I guess this is a multi-watch way. We'll watch 2 chapters, I guess. But this is gonna be like all of the react. Your TikTok brain won't watch a 2-hour video, but how do you watch Boka? Boka is omnipresent and always there. Alright, alright. I put my wings away. But we're wearing a hoodie today because we rock and stuff. Alright, here we go, guys. By Warrior Tier.
How far up do you want to go? I'm not breathing well up here.
The plum brandy from last night could be to blame.
Oh, quiet. Tell me, what are we doing up here?
You saw the same thing I did.
Here?
We're not turning back now.
The slavers ascended the frigid, snow-covered range, searching for what could have caused the blinding flash of light above the Deshelica ridge that they saw hours before.
I did see it, but I'm starting to think that whatever it wasn't worth the trip.
Stop. What is that?
As the slavers continued walking, they saw what appeared to be a pile of nearly 50 corpses in the distance. The slavers drew their rifles as they advanced.
What are those?
They're dead, whatever they are.
Well, look. Is that a boy?
Look at the size of him. Ha ha! We're gonna be rich.
These are Zeno's corpses. Did he kill him? Who is he?
Our biggest payday ever.
Oh yeah, you're totally gonna fight. You're totally gonna capture the guy that killed lots of Xenos. Yeah, that. Yeah, we believe that. Totally. I love the art so far. It's great. Very well done.
The slavers returned to Deshea, the young warrior contained in a net. He was sold to House Thalkir, one of the most powerful clans on Nuceria. This clan was part of the wealthy elite, known by the slaves of the world as the High Riders. They lived behind their walls in lavish palaces, while the rest lived in poverty. The High Riders of Nuceria, being the tyrant rulers that they were, orchestrated violent skirmishes that took place within the many gladiator pits. In the capital city of Deshea, these barbarous contests took many forms. The gladiator slaves were often pitted against each other. Other times, they were thrown into the pits to fight abhuman beasts or witches. More often than not, a battle would end with one side conceding defeat, as this would allow the High Riders to keep an ample inventory of fighters. Sometimes, these fights were large group battles. Other times, they were one-on-one duels. No 2 pit fights were the same. But what was consistent was the crowd of roaring Nucerians that turned out to watch the brutal, inhumane contest unfold. These poor, downcast people would flock to the arenas and wager what little coin they had on their chosen warriors. When ANGRON was introduced to the gladiator pits, he was confused and afraid. He found himself unable to comprehend what was happening. Standing on the first step of a large, pyramid-shaped platform with nearly 100 others, he was surrounded by a thunderous crowd of chanting humans. Metallic spheres, known to the slaves as maggots' eyes, flew overhead and emitted sounds and unusual voices to the uneasy gladiators below.
Which one of these warriors possesses the strength needed to endure the devil's tears? Place your wagers!
Wait, is this like... Is this like, drawn? This is like... This is very well done. Why is there a Zagoba in the middle?
Suddenly, ANGRON heard a collective gasp from the other slaves as massive doors on the pit walls opened and a foul-smelling liquid began to pour into the pit. ANGRON did not understand what they were saying, but was quickly beginning to comprehend the words that the slaves were speaking.
Quick, boy, grab my hand.
He watched in horror as someone made contact with the black liquid and screamed in agony.
There's no room.
A woman slipped trying to make it up to the next stair and unleashed a gut-wrenching scream. The acid continued to fill the pit and submerge the bottom steps. With less room to stand, those remaining on the platform began to panic. Desperation began to overcome the remaining slaves as only a few steps remained. They stopped helping those around them and started to fend others off so they could survive. ANGRON maneuvered the quickly sinking pyramid flawlessly. A man charged at ANGRON and attempted to shove him into the acid, but it was to no avail. ANGRON was simply too strong.
I would think so. If he
It wasn't until no other options were available that ANGRON began to physically overpower the remaining slaves.
Rest is fan art.
He countered incoming punches and sent his attackers scrambling into the acid below. One of the flying spheres idled above the frantic gladiators and seemed to taunt them.
Fascinating! Grown men being outmatched by a young boy. Who will remain standing?
Near the top of the pyramid, only ANGRON and a hulking man covered in scars remained. The man threw a barrage of powerful punches, but ANGRON absorbed them like they were nothing and stood unmoved like a rockcrete wall. Understanding that death was imminent, ANGRON's instincts took over. He punched the man in the stomach with unimaginable force and sent him into the acid. The crowd erupted into a deafening applause.
Behold, people of Deshea! For your coin and happiness, we have a victor! We present...
So this is like, I'm trying to think. Just like, not exactly Gladiator itself. I think a comic example would be like the place where Hulk gets thrown. World Breaker Hulk gets thrown to live. It's like a post-apocalyptic gladiator slash... Because even in the Gladiator thing, I like it. Are these little metal... Are the metal balls like basically the announcers and stuff?
Wait, is this Warhammer 40k?
Yeah, this is Warhammer.
My child, what do you call yourself?
Although ANGRON was rapidly understanding more and more of the words he was hearing, he was unable to speak, not sure how to form words himself.
No name, boy. We shall name you ourselves then. ANGRON Valkyr, child of the mountain.
The crowd began cheering and screaming once again. In ANGRON's first trial, he stood victorious, though he was soon to learn that this was only the beginning.
So wait, this guy's gonna become like a Primarch?
After surviving the Devil's Tears, ANGRON was promptly brought to
They're all born with... Yeah, I've heard that all Primarchs have a defect.
his new home. Each day, after the raucous, raving crowds filed out of the arenas and the ruthless exhibitions had concluded, Those that survived the fight were escorted by armored machines out of the
You
pits
don't just
and
become a
into the caves
Primarch,
below
you're
the
born
arena.
one.
Okay.
It was here that ANGRON would be kept with the other slaves, and where he would remain until he was summoned once again to combat.
I didn't think you had it in you. You made the 40k clan rich today.
ANGRON looked around the dimly lit cave, observing the others who were kept captive. These people were battered and broken, both physically and mentally. A man with dried blood all over his body and dark purple bruises on his arms and face stood silently with his head against the wall. He looked at ANGRON, staring directly into his eyes.
You should get some rest, boy.
ANGRON looked at the slave with an uncomfortable gaze.
You're the boy from the mountains, you know?
Yes.
I heard them up there, cheering and screaming for you. I always hear the crowd, but I never heard them so loud before. The caves were shaking so hard we all thought it was an earthquake.
Where am I?
I wouldn't worry about that. I'd worry about getting some rest. If you're able to get to Shea, that entranced on your first battle, then you're gonna be spending a lot of time on the hot dust. Which means you need to rest.
Hot dust.
Close your eyes, boy.
The man heeded his own advice, closing his eyes and slumping back against the cave wall. ANGRON looked around at the others. Everyone was in some state of pain or discomfort. Some appeared to be having nightmares, their bodies shaking even though they didn't seem to be conscious. Others simply stared at the ground, quietly talking to themselves, their inaudible muffles fading away under their breath. It was never truly quiet down in the caves. Arena guards were always loudly moving about, rattling chains and yelling at the captives. Slaves would be shuffled in and out, whether they were being summoned to the pits or new prisoners had arrived. He closed his eyes, lost in his own thoughts, his mind racing throughout the night. The mental toll the caves took on one's psyche was dangerous to most men. ANGRON didn't yet know it, but he was not like most men.
You, over there. You two, get up, now.
3 armored machine guards stalked through the caves, rounded everyone up, and prodded them with a long, electric-tipped pole.
Mountain boy, get up. You're going to the hot dust.
The selected gladiators were lined up and marched into a small anteroom. This room was completely empty, with the exception of a wooden table and some racks that held a variety of weapons. Those that were aware of what was going on immediately swarmed the table, eager to get their hands on a rusted axe or a battle-worn knife. All that remained when ANGRON went to the table was a helmet, with remnants from the last battle still inside.
Everybody, line up.
The 3 armored machines stood behind them, nudging them closer to a gigantic door. The door opened, and ANGRON was blinded momentarily as piercing sunlight poured into the room. They were pushed out onto the arena floor by the armored machines. The surface was covered in dust that would blow across the arena with each gust of wind. The hot dust.
Who will survive? Place your wagers and choose your...
Is this like the same arena? Because that is crazy that they can change it.
Warrior wisely.
Unlike
Then again,
the
this
Devil's
is like
Tears,
futuristic.
there would
so
be
I
no
guess...
acid flowing through the arena, no jumping to platforms
But I thought that like most of like super technology was gone.
to survive. This contest was all about combat. The fighting began, with gladiators swinging axes and spilling blood across the arena, working the crowd into a frenzy.
ANGRON, Valkyr's dominance is on full display. The boy of the mountain continues to dominate.
ANGRON's first test on the hot dust was nothing short of mastery, fighting with the skill of a seasoned veteran. While only a boy, his physical strength was overwhelming, his agility and speed unmatched by any of his opponents, always knowing where to be, when to strike, and never leaving himself vulnerable to enemy attacks. After his first battle on the hot dust, ANGRON was the last man standing. And in subsequent fights, he would be the last man standing over and over again.
ANGRON Valkyr has conquered the gladiators. ANGRON has done it once again. He is the winner. ANGRON is unstoppable. Can anyone best the boy of the mountain in combat?
Weeks turned into months, and months into years. And ANGRON's domination of the gladiator pits continued. By the time he had reached the age of 10 Terran years, he had grown to a massive size. Each time he stepped onto the hot dust, the crowd was stunned to see how large ANGRON had become. He was the most revered warrior that had ever stepped foot on Nuceria, and the locals who came to watch named him the Lord of the Red Sands. The violence within the gladiator pits had shaped ANGRON's life, and through this combat, he and the other gladiators held a mutual respect for each other. They had true camaraderie. Being locked away in chains together, they understood each other's pain. They felt each other's suffering. As a prisoner to the High Riders, ANGRON forged many relationships with the other gladiators, but none of them were as significant as that with Onomaus. Onomaus was a veteran of the slave pits, having survived over a decade of combat trials and imprisonment. He wasn't quite the physical threat that ANGRON was, but he was incredibly strong and agile in his own right.
Ooh, so this is basically like, is this guy gonna be his mentor or whatever?
He became a mentor and a father
Okay.
figure to ANGRON.
You did well out there, ANGRON.
ANGRON sat quietly with a blank expression.
I know what you're feeling. I'm tired too.
The new one that was out there with us today, his first time on the hot dust. I knew he wouldn't make it out alive. I saw everything go dark for him, and I wished it were me.
I don't believe that, ANGRON.
It's true, Onomaus. He's free from it all now. No chains, no being made to fight suffering men, no more High Rider scum or being taunted by the damned maggot's eyes. He's free.
The only life ANGRON had ever known, one of pain, violence, and suffering, was starting to break him.
He's dead. That isn't freedom. Freedom is outside of these walls. The High Riders rule today. Will they rule tomorrow, or 1 year from now? No one knows. We could see the other side of these walls one day.
Onomaus was right. For as empty as he felt, ANGRON would not give up hope of finding freedom. The bond between the two only grew stronger, and they made easy work of anyone who faced them on the hot dust.
The vegetable
They were
god
such
may
a
like this
formidable
one.
duo that the High Riders decided one day to push them to their limits. After defeating a group of mutant beasts with heads that resembled an animal more than a human, ANGRON and Onomaus faced their gravest challenge yet.
People of Deshaya! ANGRON and Onomaus have survived their first battle today. Will they survive their second? This battle, I assure you, is not to be missed.
ANGRON had faced countless foes in this arena. The Devil's Tears, witches with psychic powers, monsters, but nothing he had battled before compared to what was next. As the arena doors opened, 2 metal cages were brought out into the dusty arena surface, and as soon as they laid eyes on their opponents, Onomaus was immediately overcome with dread. 2 ogren monstrosities, roughly the size of ANGRON himself, were slowly let out of their respective cages.
Mama lies.
It wasn't their iron armor, or even their sheer size that terrified Onomaus. They were both wearing a remissum, which indicated that they were too aggressive and unpredictable to be kept with the other slaves, as the remissum was only worn by those who had received implants known simply as the Butcher's Nails.
Crush the little ones.
The fight commenced, and it was quite possibly the most fierce battle that had ever taken place in the arena. Both sides attacked each other with unprecedented strength, exchanging brutal and unforgiving assaults. And while this was the most challenging fight ANGRON had ever encountered, it was the first time that ANGRON wasn't fighting only for himself. He was fighting for Onomaus. Many times throughout the 17-minute brawl, ANGRON sacrificed a wide-open attack on the Ogrons to prevent Onomaus from suffering a fatal blow. In the end, ANGRON's strength and skill in battle proved to be too much, as the skirmish was punctuated with one final swing of ANGRON's axe, decapitating the last remaining Ogron.
Okay.
ANGRON the unbeaten, and Onomaus the bear of Vulture.
It didn't seem like very nice,
What a
Ogrons.
magnificent performance! Now, for their final test, the most treacherous match yet. In a fight to the death, ANGRON versus Onomaus!
I knew it would be stupid
Violence
like that.
was all that ANGRON had ever known. From the moment he emerged from the warp, surrounded by Xenos who wanted him dead, to the very moment where he stood in the arena, set to face off against the only father he had ever known. His entire life had been one of savagery, but this was too far for ANGRON.
No.
I'm sorry, this is not a request, ANGRON. You and Onomaus are to fight to the death. There is not an alternative option.
I feel like the
Onomaus,
maggot size should be
understanding that
severe
nothing
skulls,
good would come
but
from
then again
ANGRON's
this is
refusal,
before the Horus
pleaded with him.
heresy.
But ANGRON was resolute. Onomaus was like a father to him, and he would not take part in his execution. The crowd suddenly burst into laughter, humiliating the High Riders in the process.
Refusing the orders of the Highborn, are we? Well, ANGRON Thalkir, we have a way of handling this behavior. People of Deshaya, how shall we deal with this insubordination?
And in that moment, a chant from the crowd ensued. One word that would change the fate of ANGRON forever. In stark contrast to when he was being pulled out of the caves, he was heavily sedated now, and the surgery could proceed as planned. One can assume that if ANGRON knew what the technomancers were about to do to him and how it would shape his future, that he would have swallowed his pride and killed Onomaus on the hot dust. But there was no turning back now. The origins of the Butcher's nails are a mystery. Dating back to the dark age of technology, these cybernetic implants are a technical marvel. Some view the Butcher's nails as a mortal curse. Others see them as indispensable enhancements. Regardless of perspective, the nails are incredibly effective. Empathy, morality, joy, love, any emotion that is not anger is pushed aside, degrading over time until it eventually withers away completely. ANGRON was suddenly jolted from his sedated state. His eyes opened so wide that he felt like they might bulge out of his head. Split-second flashes of colors and long dormant memories perplexed him.
These are, Xenos corpses.
He had never experienced a sensation like this. An evanescent chill ran through his body before it suddenly changed course, and his blood began to boil.
The pain in my head is unbearable. Why are you looking at me like this? You people are monsters. Why is it so hot in here? Why are these lights so bright? What did I do to deserve all of this?
Look at the size of it.
The High Riders are going to bleed for what they have done to me.
My fair people of Deshaya, the wait is over. The legendary battle that you have been anticipating. ANGRON and Onomaeus will battle to the death.
It was an honor, Angron, to battle alongside you for so many years.
Angron nearly killed Onomaeus with the first punch that connected. And in the first instance of many more to come, Angron was lost to the nails. The pain he was inflicting upon Onomaeus and the blood that was staining the sands red were the only things soothing the pulsing pain from the nails. His vision went dark, and all he could hear was the earth-shaking roar of the crowd chanting his name.
I don't like that.
When he came out of the coma-like state he was in from the nails, he was somewhere completely different. Gone was the hot dust and the screaming Dachaians in the crowd. Angron now found himself in a dark cell, his hands and ankles chained to the cave wall. His memory was fragmented, with everything after his refusal to fight being blurry. The butcher's nails throbbed inside of Angron's head so badly that it almost drowned out the conversation from the arena guards down the hall.
Ha! I made more coin off that one fight than I've made from the past 3 years of work.
Ah, gloat some more, why don't you? We're all dying to hear it.
As you wish. Is someone disappointed that they wagered on the wrong brute?
Yeah. Get a good laugh. I'll admit it. I expected more of a fight than that, and if Angron would have lost, I would have been twice as rich as you right now.
Ha! You didn't really think that old man was going to survive, did you? I don't think the fight had even gone 20 seconds before Angron caved his head in.
He's gonna destroy everything.
And it was at this moment when reality came crashing down onto Angron. The only father he had ever known was dead, and he was the one who had killed him. For the first time in his life, he began openly weeping. His cries were so powerful that the cave walls began to violently shake. He sobbed uninterrupted for 3 days, and when he finally stopped, only one singular thought remained. Vengeance. Angron vowed that he would escape from his chains and make the High Riders pay for the death of Onomaeus.
So he was the strongest one.
Angron spent the next number of years teaching the gladiators in the pits how to fight.
He's now the most violent one.
The bond between Angron and the remaining slaves grew so strong that he began to look at them as his brothers and sisters. Angron wasn't only teaching them to fight, he was also plotting their escape. And on one momentous day, Angron and his gladiators put their plan into action.
Here stands 100 gladiators of Deshea, prepared for battle. How many will survive? Place your wagers and enjoy the festivities.
This is it, Jakura. The day has finally come.
I'm ready, Angron. We all are.
As soon as the horn blared,
what are they going to do? Are they going to distract people so that he
escape.
can climb up the walls or something?
The Dachaians were in attendance to see Angron Thalkir slaughter his opponents. But to their complete and utter horror, they bore witness to a far more chilling event. The slaves in the pits hoisted each other up into the crowd, allowing them to scale the barriers and run freely through the aisles of tiered seats. Angron and his brothers and sisters were revolting, and the members of the crowd were their first targets. As they began attacking the retreating civilians, the rest of the crowd was completely enveloped in fear. They ran as fast as they could, screaming at the top of their lungs. The Nucerian Kin Guard attempted to regain control, and the gladiators in the stands were met with a barrage of gunfire. But it was too late. The evading Dachaians running for their lives created a stampede, and many of the Kin Guards were trampled. While the gladiators in the crowd continued sowing chaos and butchering all who stood in their way, Angron and those who stayed in the pit forced their way back into the caves and freed the remaining prisoners. Armored guards rushed down to the caves to stop the revolt, firing laser weapons and rifles. But ANGRON, overcome by the thumping of the butcher's nails, unleashed his fury on them. Within the arena and the caves below it, the ground was littered with the bodies of the dead and injured. ANGRON and his warriors spilled out into the streets of Deshea and waged war against any of the High Riders that were foolish enough to stay and fight. With sticks, rocks, and anything else they could muster, they viciously attacked those who had enslaved them for so many years. They butchered the High Riders, collecting their skulls and leaving their corpses in the streets. These gladiators razed the cities of Nuceria and set fire to the rubble that remained. In one Nucerian day, 31 Terran hours, the gladiators faced their well-equipped and heavily armed slavers head-on, and won. They were no longer malnourished, defenseless prisoners. They were the eaters of cities.
Oh. Wait, he's called Eater of Worlds. So does that mean like he starts taking over worlds?
By the time the harsh winter arrived, the gladiators had suffered significant casualties from the relentless High Riders. The Eaters of Cities were forced to retreat to the treacherous mountains of Deshea. When they had first escaped, there were thousands of gladiators who were eager to set fire to Nuceria. Over time, attacks from the Kin Guard and the unforgiving conditions of the Deshelica Ridge reduced their numbers to hundreds. And by the time they arrived in the cave that they now called home, only 56 remained.
We won't be able to stay here forever. You know this. They're going to find us eventually. And when they do...
Do you think they can defeat us?
ANGRON and his Eaters of Cities were free from the chains of the High Riders, but their situation was no less precarious. The freezing temperatures and lack of food proved to be a detriment to all of them. ANGRON had not eaten in weeks, saving any source of nourishment for his brothers and sisters.
No, but this mountain is slowly killing us, Chikura.
ANGRON spoke through gritted teeth and the pain of the butcher's nails.
I've been seeing more High Rider scouts appear searching the area. It won't be long until they find us. If we die fighting the High Riders, so be it. I would rather die fighting alongside you all than to slowly wither away on this mountain. Rest now. And if we have to face our last stand when the sun rises, that's what we'll do.
As the sun appeared over the horizon the next morning, ANGRON and his Eaters of Cities stood at the edge of the cave.
I can hear them coming, ANGRON.
Good. Let's make them pay for what they did to us.
The sound of the High Riders approaching was getting louder with each passing moment, and when they finally came within view, the nails in ANGRON's head pounded like war drums.
It's rather cold up here, ANGRON. Why don't you come back to where you belong? We don't take any of this personally. I can assure you. If you return to your rightful place, you have our word that we will forget any of this ever happened.
The High Riders were adorned in ridiculous outfits, wearing expensive furs and exotic animal skins. But it was the man's voice that drew ANGRON's ire. The maggot's eye. This was the voice that had haunted him for years, the voice that flew overhead and goaded him and the other gladiators.
Never. We will never go back.
You're acting like a child, ANGRON. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be.
This doesn't make sense. Why are they talking to us? There's so many of them.
Looking down at the hundreds of kin guards surrounding the Eaters of Cities, everything began to make sense in ANGRON's head. They didn't want to kill ANGRON. They needed him alive. The wealthy and technologically advanced High Riders had rebounded from the Eaters of Cities' attack. But without their standout warrior in the arena to fight, the Deshean populace was no longer engrossed by the arena battles. And there was nothing more dangerous to the High Riders than the Deshean people focusing on their own poverty.
If you want me, you'll have to take me with your bare hands.
Well then, you've given us no other option. Just remember that this was your choice, ANGRON, not ours.
Good morning, honey.
The High Riders opened fire on the Eaters of Cities, and 20 of them died in an instant. ANGRON watched his brothers fall by his side, being overpowered by the deadly Nucerian weaponry. He had his eyes fixated on the man who barked orders through the maggot's eyes. He launched himself at him and ripped him in two. ANGRON was unhinged, ready to throw himself at every last High Rider that dared to face him, when he was suddenly taken back by a blinding flash of light. The Emperor of Mankind appeared. ANGRON was frozen in place, unable to move. The psychic energy from the Emperor caused torment in ANGRON's head.
I'm not leaving this mountain! Ah! I'm not leaving my brothers here to die!
ANGRON hit the ground violently, shattering the tiles beneath him. He opened his eyes and struggled to understand what he was seeing. His battle brothers were gone, as were the High Riders. More curiously, he was no longer on the snow-covered Deshayan mountaintop. His eyes darted around the room, taking in the luxurious art pieces hanging on the walls and the warriors in golden armor towering over him as he struggled to his feet. As one of the warriors approached, ANGRON ripped the spear from his hand and impaled him with his own weapon. Before he could move to neutralize the other golden warriors, he was dazed by another flash of light.
No! My brothers are dying! I cannot abandon them! You don't choose my destiny. Let me out of this place. I know nothing of this legion you speak of.
So he just got summoned by the
I
Emperor?
need to stand and fight on Nuceria.
In one final flash of light, ANGRON opened his eyes and was suddenly somewhere completely different. This time, he was all alone. He was surrounded by dark, stone walls and massive blue and white banners. ANGRON didn't know where he was, but he knew it wasn't where he was supposed to be. He should be fighting with his brothers and sisters on the Deshelika Ridge. Everything happened so fast that his brain couldn't comprehend it, and the nails hammered away in pain as he tried to make sense of it all. Who was this Emperor, and what was this place that he had taken him to? As his mind raced and his emotions washed over him, a door at the top of a staircase opened. Light poured into the room and the silhouette of a man walked in, closing the door behind him.
My lord, my Primarch. It's an extraordinary honor to stand in your presence. I must admit, I feared this day might never come.
Gear slowly descended the stairs, approaching ANGRON as he spoke.
We have traveled the stars for many, many years, anticipating your arrival.
As Gear continued his slow march towards his Primarch, ANGRON began to rise to his feet.
I have acted as the Legion commander in your absence, sire. But you are here now, and your Legion stands before you.
ANGRON stared at Gear, clenching his jaw like an iron grip.
We will honor you, my lord. We are here to serve you.
Serve me?
Yes, my lord. We are here to serve you. In the name of the Emperor.
As Gear muttered those fateful words, ANGRON's blood boiled. The nails pummeled away in his head, and ANGRON snarled at Gear as he looked down at him.
In the name of the Emperor?
Be angry. Hey, come back. Be very angry.
The Warhound's captain of the 8th Assault Company approached the door to the hall where Angron remained. In an act of rage that left the entire Warhound's Legion baffled, Angron had executed Gear shortly after he entered the hall. At least 6 other Warhounds met the same fate as Gear after they reluctantly followed their former Legion commander. Karn stood outside of the door and quietly spoke to himself under his breath.
My Primarch, I assure you that we mean no disrespect or harm. In the name of the Emperor, if you would be willing to listen to what I have to say to you. We are your Legion. We are at your command.
Karn opened the door and slowly walked down the stairs. It was so dark in the room that Karn's eyes had difficulties adjusting.
Don't say that word.
Even through the
Don't
darkness,
say in the name of the
it was
Emperor.
obvious
Don't
that
say
his
it.
Primarch had left the hall in shambles. The smell of blood was overpowering, and nearly every light in the room had been broken or ripped out of the wall.
My Primarch, I assure you.
Another warrior that enters the arena with no weapon. Babbling nonsense. Is this how all of you prepare to fight?
Karn couldn't see the Primarch, but he bellowed so loudly that he could hear him perfectly.
To fight? No, my lord, I am not here to fight. In the name of the Emperor.
No! The Emperor killed my brothers and sisters down there. Refuses to show himself to me.
My Primarch, I don't...
Why? Why are you all like this? Talking about this paper skin Emperor. Enough! Get to your feet and fight me now.
Sire, I am not here to harm you. You are my honorable leader. Our honorable leader. We are your warriors.
No. None of you are warriors. Warriors don't walk onto the hot dust without a weapon, speaking softly and... My warriors are dead now. I should have died with them on the mountain. But this Emperor took me from my warriors. Why do you call yourself warriors if you enter the hot dust and refuse to fight?
Karn stumbled to his feet and attempted to catch his breath as he collected himself.
My apologies, sire. I do not know what you speak of. This hot dust. Nor do I know of your battle on the mountain. I'm sorry for the death of your warriors. My brothers and I. We have waited for many years for your arrival. You are our Primarch. Our leader.
What are you saying? What is this Primarch? Why are you wasting my time?
I'm sorry, sire.
He is
A
so
Primarch
angry.
leads a legion of warriors. You are a Primarch. You are one of the
That part is
sons
if
of the
Agron
Emperor.
could think clearly, he would have taken the Legion and saved his brother. I don't know if he'd have been able to
What
do
did
that.
you say to me?
He was taken in the middle
son
of them
any
dying.
Emperor. The only father I
got
ever
you.
knew, Onomaeus, died on Deshea.
A wave of emotion washed over Angron with the thought of Onomaeus. Karn was having difficulties breathing, and could feel at least one broken bone in his leg. He was taken aback by Angron's complete lack of knowledge. He pondered whether he was truly unaware of who he was, or whether this was a ruse.
What I am saying to you, sire, as a Primarch, you are our leader. You were chosen to lead us.
I choose nothing. I did not choose to lead any of you. I was taken away from those that I chose to lead.
I understand. As your warriors, your servants, we do fight when necessary, but we will never fight you. We will fight for you. We fight the enemies of our
No!
The enemies of our legion, tyrants, Xenos.
Xenos.
Yes, aliens, impure creatures. Anyone that threatens humanity. The enemies of you, our Primarch.
Angron stood quietly, pausing before he spoke again.
What is your name?
Karn is taking a long time to die.
It's Karn.
Karn.
He's like, I don't know if I like this name.
Where are we right now, Karn?
We are in your triumph hall, sire, on the Adamant Resolve. The Warhound's ship. Your ship. We constructed this room upon learning of your impending arrival.
If we leave this room, if we walk
It's
through
Khan
that
from
door,
Star Trek.
what will happen?
You will be saluted by warriors, more like me, who are ready to serve you as you see fit. Warhound's legionnaires who will fight and die for you if need be.
Angron said nothing. He looked at Karn and extended his hand to help him up from the ground. They walked up the stairs together and through the door into the flagship's corridor. The hall outside of the chamber was lined with the Warhound Astartes. They stood neatly in order, a look of stunned shock on their faces as they stared intently at their Primarch.
Warhounds! Our Primarch has arrived. He has spilled the blood of hostiles on Nuceria. He led his brothers and sisters, the Eaters of Cities, in the mountains of Deshea. He is our commander, the leader of the Warhounds.
All of the Warhounds saluted Angron at once, placing a fist over their chest. Angron looked around slowly, taking in the sight of the lines of Astartes standing before him.
Sire, as your warriors, we will not be eaters of cities. We will be the eaters of worlds.
Angron stared directly into Draeger's eyes, and a smile slowly formed at the edges of his mouth.
World Eaters. Yes. You will be World Eaters.
Okay, so I'm guessing when we come back to this, is he going to eat Deshea first? Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it technically is a title mention. I have a feeling the Butcher's nails are gonna cause him to not be very helpful to the Emperor. But I could kind of see him maybe being still good guy, but not helping the Emperor. He doesn't know where the Deshea is yet, but got the right idea. Yeah, he's probably just gonna... Anything that gets in his way to getting to Deshea is probably just done for. Seems like that. Sorry I didn't talk much in it. I was just very interested in the story. Will I be your big sis? I mean, I suppose. You guys call me little sis, big sis. My ghost. Emperor and High Rider is the same thing. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. Like, he probably helped in terms of the Horus Heresy. He probably attacks the Emperor's palace and stuff. But after that, I doubt he's evil. Because he seems like he's actually a good person. He just really hates anything to do with the High Riders. Am I wrong? That's what it seems like it is.
In all fairness, the Emperor could have asked before taking Angron away from his home.
Well, from what I understand, I don't think the Emperor understood what was going on. Or, like, what he was going through. So, I think that's really is the Emperor's fault there, is he didn't... He should have, like, he has such great psychic powers, he could have, like, just...
Yeah, the Emperor lost his #1 dad mug privileges.
Not #1 dad anymore.
I mean, having Chaos God kidnap your kids and spread them across the galaxy doesn't exactly make parenting easier, but still, could have tried playing catch at least once.
thing catch. Yeah. Or when they say not right now, you wait a bit. And watch what they're doing to figure out what's going on. Like, that's like #1 rule of parenting is like, if your kids are passionate about something, see why they're passionate. Understand the passion.
At least then he would have realized how batshit crazy most of his kids were.
At least then he would have realized how batshit crazy most of his kids are. Is it really that they were batshit crazy, or it was their interactions growing up that caused them to be a bit unhinged? Because you literally told me that his, his glitch or defect was he had humanity. Or empathy. If they could remove his nails, that would... I don't know if that's even possible, but if the nails were removed, he'd probably be a stronger force to be reckoned with.
Well, at least one of them was just straight up true evil pretty much from the get-go. All the rest are shades of grey.
Yeah, from what I understand, a lot of them were shades of grey. 50 Shades of Grey? I don't know, maybe. Thank you for the paddlies. What do we want to do today? Hi, Benny.